There are a lot of videos on YouTube about healing your inner child and how your inner child is linked obviously to your childhood and your parents. But I think that something that gets overlooked is your inner teenager. And that's what I want to discuss in this video. Because your inner teenager, while still a child, has a very different voice from the inner child and can really negatively impact your relationships with your parents as you get older. So what makes your inner teenager different from your inner child? I think that the inner child is more about wish fulfillment and the wishes that went unfulfilled, while the inner teenager is more about like rebellion and standing on their own and just very anti-authority. That's the inner teenager's voice. I'll give you the inner teenager's universal catchphrase. I didn't ask to be born. If you've ever had a fight with either of your parents and you've said something like that or you've thought something like that, you have an active inner teenager, in my opinion. The inner teenager genuinely believes that because they did not ask to be born, their parents have no right to be upset about anything revolving around them because I didn't ask to be born. I'm sorry that you weren't ready to be a parent at 28 and it was hard financially. I didn't ask to be born. You didn't have to have me. That is the inner teenager. If you don't think into that at all, on the surface it makes sense. Of course you didn't ask to be born. Nobody asked to be born. Duh. So therefore, you're right. You did not ask to be born. So yes, you think on the surface, like, that makes sense. You didn't ask to be born. Nobody in the world asked to be born. But that doesn't mean that you did not receive extra growing up. Having internet access at one point before, like, it was kind of like, it's like mandatory now, but at one point was extra. Getting that bike at 7 years old was extra. Having the PlayStation when it just came out was extra. Just because you have a child doesn't mean that you have to give them the best of the best, the latest of the latest. You don't have to give them anything extra besides what the government in wherever you live says that you have to give them. So therefore you, as a child, now saying, I didn't ask to be born, so therefore everything that you did for me, you had to do. There was a lot of pressure on you to do those things because that's what you do when you have children. It's a blanket statement and it's not true. There's so many things that children will never know that their parents had to do, will never know that their parents had to struggle through. Now, is it right for a parent to have baggage and constantly loom it over the child's head that
I did this and I did that and I didn't want to do that?
Because that's basically what happens. A parent is fed up and exasperated and lists out a couple of things that they did that they found difficulty in doing, and the child is like, I didn't ask to be born, and blah, 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 blah. And the inner teenager is like, I didn't ask to be born, as like a rebuttal to that. When I think that both parties in that argument would be kind of wrong. While it's important to make your child aware ever so often, whether they're a child in years or an adult in years, that certain sacrifices were made, it should never be used in a way to burden them, one, or to guilt them, two. That doesn't make sense. I think as a child of someone, you should be more grateful that your parents had to do X, Y, and Z. And I say all these things because I feel like my inner teenager, still there, but was very active at one point where I didn't even think about the things that I didn't even think about. I was buying into that whole idea that I didn't ask to be here and this was not the ideal life anyway. I wouldn't have chosen to live in this life with you people, without realizing that there's so much around me still, even though it wasn't the ideal life of the rich people that I went to school with. And how is that the ideal life? All they were was rich. All rich people are rich. That doesn't mean they don't have problems. They're just rich. Don't fall into that trap, of thinking that your childhood was so bad and your parents are so bad. Because this video is not for the parents. It's for the people who have the inner teenagers that are very active. At least 50% of the parents, they didn't just give birth to you and look at you on that first day and say, I'm going to burden this child with all the sacrifices that I have to make. I'm going to annoy this child and I'm going to make them feel the pain that I had to feel for the 18 plus years raising them up. That's not what happened in the hospital. I can give you an example scenario that I'm gonna slightly tweak for this video. Choosing to leave a job that I didn't like. So I was having a conversation with that parent and they were like, you know, like this was not the best time and it scares me and it hurts me and etc, etc. And the inner teenager was active while I was listening. I didn't actually say anything. I'll show you. How dare you? Do you not believe in me? Do you not understand the path that I want to take in life? How dare you right now? During that same interaction, I realized that, okay, you do not 100% understand or even like the decision that I made. Okay, do I feel disrespected by you telling me that right now? If the answer is no, then we don't have a problem right now. I think that in adult parent relationships, what can heal the inner teenager is asking that question, do I feel disrespected right now? So yes, in that situation where a parent is trying to guilt or shame you by saying, like listing like the laundry list of sacrifices they made, it does feel disrespectful and that's why you answer in such a way. I don't think it's always said in that kind of way. Back to respect, that's what it's all about. So I realized that I did not feel disrespected. I actually felt respected because of the way that they were communicating their honesty to me. And that felt good in its own way. Now, would it have felt great to not have that conversation at all? Yes. But you know what? People are not always going to like or understand what you're doing. And guess what? Your parents fall under the umbrella of people. And that's the question that you have to constantly ask yourself to silence the inner teenager. Because the inner teenager is on the attack. As soon as it perceives a threat, a trigger, that's it, it's a done deal, it's ready to fight. The inner teenager is mean. I think that's the difference between the inner teenager and the child. The inner teenager is defined by anger, the inner child is defined by sadness. That's the best way to explain these two concepts. If you understand or relate to what I'm saying, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know how you're dealing with your inner teenager, because this is a problem that could occur for the rest of your life, honestly. For the rest of your life and for as long as you communicate with your parents, there's gonna be that teenager, that anger within. But it's all about learning to reason with it and speak with it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Here's another video of mine that I think that you would really enjoy since you enjoyed this one. And I'll see you all in the next video you watch of me, not anybody else. Bye!